The gleaming white walls of the stellar station's diplomatic chamber reflected the soft blue glow from the overhead lights. Lieutenant J-Ho Park stood rigid at his post, his back straight and eyes forward. The weight of his family's century-old M1911 pistol rested comfortably against his hip, its worn leather holster telling stories of generations past. The station's air recyclers hummed quietly, mixing with the nervous whispers of the human diplomatic team. This was humanity's first official contact with an advanced alien civilization, and the pressure weighed heavily on everyone present. J-Ho's fingers brushed against the pistol's grip, drawing comfort from the smooth wood that his grandfather's hands had once held. The chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss. The alien delegation of the Kirithi Empire entered, their tall, slender forms moving with fluid grace. Their iridescent scales shifted colors under the lights, creating mesmerizing patterns that drew the eye. Commander Rao led them, his head held high, multiple eyes scanning the room with barely concealed disdain. J-Ho noticed how the aliens carried themselves. Their posture spoke of centuries of technological superiority and unquestioned dominance. Their energy rifles pulsed with beautiful blue light, held casually as if they were fashion accessories rather than weapons. "Welcome to Stellar Station," Earth's chief diplomat greeted them, bowing slightly. "We are honored to host the Kirithi Empire's delegation." Commander Rao's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, his translator device converting his clicking speech into human language. "The honor is—" He paused, his gaze falling on J-Ho's holstered weapon. "Mutual." The alien commander moved closer to J-Ho, his long neck extending to examine the pistol. "A projectile weapon." "How quaint," the translator conveyed his mocking tone. "I didn't realize humans still clung to such museum pieces." Several of the Kirithi guards chittered among themselves, their translator devices picking up fragments of what seemed to be jokes at the humans' expense. J-Ho remained still, his face neutral, though his hand instinctively tightened on the pistol grip. He remembered his grandfather's words, spoken on his deathbed while passing down the family weapon. "Honor isn't in the tool, J-Ho, but in how you carry yourself when others mock what they don't understand." Commander Rao turned to address the gathered humans. "Perhaps a demonstration of real weapons is in order, to show you what true advanced civilization has achieved." Without waiting for a response, he signaled to his guards. The Kirithi guards stepped forward, their energy rifles humming to life. With practiced movements, they activated their personal shield generators. The air around them shimmered with rainbow-colored energy fields. "Observe," Rao commanded. One guard fired his rifle at a target drone they had brought. The energy beam struck the drone's shield, creating a spectacular light show as the two energy fields interacted. The drone remained unharmed. "Our shield technology is perfect," Rao boasted. "No energy weapon in the galaxy can penetrate it. This is what real progress looks like, not bits of metal propelled by chemical explosions." J-Ho watched carefully, his military training kicking in. Something about their technology seemed odd, specialized in a way that made him uncomfortable. The shields responded dramatically to energy weapons, but he noticed how they rippled and flexed differently when solid objects, like the drone itself, passed through them. The demonstration continued, with the Kirithi showing off increasingly impressive energy weapon configurations. Each display was accompanied by subtle jabs at human technology. J-Ho noticed how the aliens never demonstrated their shields against physical objects, only energy weapons. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory again. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the one people overlook because they're too busy being clever." As the demonstration wound down, J-Ho made mental notes about everything he'd observed. The way the shields interacted with matter, the Kirithi's complete focus on energy-based weapons, their dismissal of physical projectiles. It all painted a picture of a civilization that had perhaps specialized too much in one direction. Commander Rao concluded with a flourish, deactivating his weapons. "We hope this demonstration has helped you understand the gap between our civilizations. Perhaps now you'll consider upgrading your security forces to more appropriate equipment. Jai-Ho remained silent, but his mind was racing. He had seen something in their technology, a potential weakness that the Kirethi's arrogance had blinded them to. He hoped they wouldn't have to find out if his theory was correct, but as he watched the aliens' continued dismissive behavior toward the human delegation, he had a sinking feeling that conflict was inevitable. The diplomatic chamber, which had seemed so promising at the start of the day, now felt heavy with tension. The first contact that humanity had hoped would open doors to the stars had instead revealed a galaxy filled with beings who viewed them as primitive curiosities at best and dangerous children at worst. As the initial meeting wound down, Jai-Ho couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger story, one where humanity's primitive weapons might prove far more relevant than anyone expected. His grandfather's old pistol felt heavier at his side, not with weight, but with purpose. 2 weeks had passed since the first meeting with the Kirethi Empire, and the atmosphere aboard Stellar Station had grown thick with tension. Lieutenant Hannah Kim sat at her desk in the tactical analysis room, reviewing footage of their alien guests for the 100th time. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The Kirethi delegates had become increasingly aggressive in their behavior. What started as subtle mockery had evolved into open contempt. They would pointedly step away when human security personnel approached, as if afraid to be contaminated by primitive technology. Hana watched as Jai-Ho Park entered the room, his grandfather's M1911 still faithfully holstered at his side. The sight of the weapon had become a particular point of contention with the aliens. She noticed the dark circles under his eyes matched her own. "Any new insights?" he asked, pulling up a chair beside her desk. Hana played a recording from yesterday's session. "Watch their guard captain here." She pointed to the screen. "See how he tracks our weapons. His secondary eyes never leave them, even when Commander Ral is speaking." Jai-Ho leaned forward, studying the footage. "They're obsessed with our weapons," he agreed. "But why? They've made it clear they think they're worthless." "That's just it," Hannah said, pulling up another video. "I've been analyzing their shield technology. Look at these energy disbursement patterns." She pointed to the rainbow-colored ripples that appeared whenever their shields activated. "They're perfect for handling energy weapons, but I've never seen them tested against physical objects." During a brief recess in the diplomatic meetings, Hannah pulled Jai-Ho aside in a quiet corridor. "They're planning something," she whispered, her voice tight with concern. "They keep eyeing our weapons like they're personally offended by their existence." Their conversation was interrupted by the station's announcement system. Commander Ral had called an emergency session of the Diplomatic Council. As they hurried to the chamber, Hannah shared her latest findings. Their shields create a complex energy field that disperses any incoming energy weapon fire, she explained as they walked. "But I believe they've completely overlooked kinetic impacts. They're so focused on energy weapons, they've forgotten about basic physics." The diplomatic chamber was tense when they arrived. Commander Ral stood at the center, his scales shifting through angry reds and purples. "We have reached the limit of our patience," his translator crackled. "The continued presence of primitive weapons in these chambers is an insult to modern diplomatic protocols." Hana watched as the alien commander's secondary eyes fixed on Jai-Ho's pistol. There was something in that gaze, not just contempt, but fear. She couldn't be sure with alien expressions, but something was definitely off. "These obsolete tools, as you call them, are part of our cultural heritage," the human ambassador responded firmly. "We have honored your customs. We expect the same respect for ours." Ral's scales rippled with what Hana had learned to recognize as agitation. "Your species clings to the past like frightened children. How can we conduct meaningful negotiations when you refuse to embrace proper civilization?" Hana noticed the Kirethi guards slowly repositioning themselves around the chamber. Their movements seemed casual, but her tactical training screamed danger. She discreetly activated her data pad, running one final analysis of their shield configurations. The results confirmed her suspicions. The Kirethi shields were incredibly sophisticated when it came to energy weapons, but they had a fundamental blind spot. They simply weren't designed to stop physical objects, perhaps because the Kirethi had completely abandoned such primitive weapons generations ago. She carefully slid her data pad to Jaiho, letting him see the analysis. His eyes widened slightly as he understood the implications. The very technology the Kirethi were so proud of had a massive weakness, one that humanity's primitive weapons could exploit. The meeting continued to deteriorate as Commander Ral made increasingly demanding requests for human disarmament. Each demand was met with diplomatic but firm refusal, which only seemed to enrage the alien commander further. Hana noticed more Kirethi guards entering the chamber, their energy rifles humming with barely contained power. The situation was balanced on a knife's edge, and she could feel it about to tip over. "This is your final opportunity," Ral announced, his translator struggling to convey the full force of his anger. "Remove these offensive weapons, or we will be forced to take action for the good of galactic civilization." Hannah's hand moved slowly toward her own sidearm. She caught Jaiho's eye and gave a subtle nod. If the Kirethi were planning what she suspected, humanity's primitive weapons might be their only advantage. The chamber fell silent, the tension building like a storm about to break. Hannah's analysis had revealed a crucial oversight in Kirethi technology, but she hoped they wouldn't have to test her theory. Unfortunately, the look in Commander Ral's multiple eyes suggested that hope was quickly fading. The storm was coming, and when it broke, the Kirethi would learn that overlooking primitive technology might prove to be their greatest mistake. The diplomatic chamber felt like a powder keg ready to explode. The air recyclers worked overtime, yet the tension made the room feel stuffy and hot. Commander Ral's scales had shifted to a deep crimson, a color the humans had learned to associate with aggressive intent. "Your species needs guidance," Ral announced, his translator barely keeping up with his agitated clicks and whistles. "We will begin by confiscating your primitive artifacts." Captain Sun Li rose from her seat at the negotiation table, her back straight and expression firm. Though she stood a full head shorter than the Kirethi commander, her presence filled the room. "Our weapons are part of our cultural heritage. They stay with us." Jaiho watched as the Kirethi guards began to move. They were trying to be subtle, but their movements betrayed their intentions as they slowly positioned themselves around the human delegation. His hand dropped to the worn grip of his M1911, the smooth wood polished by generations of his family's hands offering silent comfort. Hannah Kim caught his eye from across the room, her hand also resting near her sidearm. Her earlier analysis of the Kirethi shields flashed through his mind. Their complete vulnerability to kinetic weapons might be their only advantage if things went wrong. "You mistake our patience for weakness," Rel continued, his secondary eyes tracking every human hand that strayed near a weapon. "Your stubborn attachment to these dangerous relics threatens the stability of galactic civilization." The human security team shifted their stance, responding to the increasing threat without making any sudden moves. The Kirethi guards' energy rifles hummed louder, their blue glow casting strange shadows across the chamber. "Commander Rao," Captain Lee's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I remind you that we are here as equals. Any attempt to forcibly disarm my people will be considered an act of aggression." The Kirethi commander's translator crackled as he let out a series of sharp clicks. "Equals." The word dripped with contempt. "You parade around with explosive-powered projectile weapons like savages and dare to call yourselves our equals." Jaiho felt the weight of history pressing against his palm through the pistol grip. He remembered his grandfather telling him stories of this very weapon, passed down through their family since the early 21st century. Each scratch and wear mark held a memory, a lesson, a piece of human heritage. "This is your final warning." Rel's scales pulsed with angry red waves. "Surrender your weapons, or we will take them by force, for your own good." The human security team had already noted all possible exits, calculated angles of fire, and identified cover positions. Years of training kicked in automatically, even as they maintained their diplomatic postures. Hannah's voice carried across the chamber, clear and steady. "Commander, if you review the diplomatic protocols, you'll find that all delegations have the right to carry their traditional ceremonial weapons." Protocols. Ral spat the word. "You humans hide behind words while carrying instruments of barbarism. No more." He raised one of his 4 arms, and the Kirethi guards activated their shield generators in unison. The air shimmered with rainbow-colored energy fields. Jai-Ho watched as the aliens' confidence grew with their shield's activation. They truly believed their energy barriers made them invulnerable. Their technological arrogance had blinded them to basic physics, a mistake that might prove costly. Captain Lee made one final attempt at diplomacy. "Commander, please consider your next actions carefully. We came here in peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The Kirethi guards took another step forward, their energy rifles now openly trained on the human delegation. The hum of their weapons filled the chamber, mixing with the soft click of human safeties being disengaged. Time seemed to slow as Jai-Ho watched Commander Ral's hand rise higher. The weight of the M1911 at his side felt heavier with each passing second. 100 years of history, of human ingenuity and determination, pressed against his palm. The chamber balanced on the edge of chaos. Humans and Kirethi locked in a standoff, pride and fear pushing both sides toward a conflict that neither truly wanted, but neither would back down from. In that moment, Jai-Ho understood that this was more than a clash of technologies or military might. It was a collision of philosophies, one that believed only the newest and most advanced had value, and another that understood the wisdom of building upon the past rather than discarding it. The storm that had been building for weeks was about to break, and when it did, the galaxy would learn an important lesson about underestimating primitive technology. The first energy blast came without warning, a brilliant blue beam that seared through the air where Captain Lee had stood moments before. Only her quick reflexes, honed by years of training, saved her as she dove behind a marble conference table. The Kirethi guards opened fire in unison, their energy weapons transforming the diplomatic chamber into a deadly light show. They moved with complete confidence, protected by their supposedly impenetrable shields, expecting the humans to cower before their superior technology. Jai-Ho rolled behind a pillar as energy blasts scorched the wall behind him. Through the chaos, he could hear Hannah shouting coordinates to the rest of the security team. The human delegation responded with remarkable discipline, taking cover and drawing their primitive weapons without panic. Commander Ral stood in the center of the chamber, his scales glowing with triumph. "Surrender now, and we may still show mercy to such an underdeveloped species." Jai-Ho's hand tightened on his grandfather's M1911. Time seemed to slow as he remembered his family's legacy. Generations of service and sacrifice, embodied in this simple machine of steel and wood. He took a deep breath, years of training guiding his movements. The pistol's report cracked through the chamber like thunder, drowning out the high-pitched whine of energy weapons. The simple lead projectile, propelled by century-old technology, passed through Ral's energy shield as if it wasn't there. Physics, in all its elegant simplicity, proved more powerful than alien arrogance. Commander Ral staggered backward, purple blood blossoming across his ornate uniform, where the bullet struck his shoulder. His multiple eyes widened in shock and disbelief. "Impossible," he gasped, his translator barely picking up his whispered clicks. The chamber fell silent for a moment as both sides processed what had happened. The Kirethi guards froze, their energy rifles wavering as they watched their commander's shield, the pinnacle of their technological achievement, fail to stop a simple bullet. Hannah's voice cut through the silence. "Their shields don't stop kinetic weapons. Target the shield generators." The human security team responded immediately. The chamber erupted with the sharp cracks of gunfire, a symphony of primitive weapons that sent the Kirethi into chaos. Their shields, optimized for energy weapons, offered no protection against simple physics. Jai-Ho moved from his cover, his M1911 barking twice more. Each shot found its mark, disabling shield generators with precise hits. The Kirathi guards scattered, their confidence shattered as quickly as their protective barriers. "Stop! Stop this madness!" Ral commanded, but the authority had drained from his voice along with his purple blood. His guards looked to him in confusion, their entire combat doctrine suddenly proven useless. Captain Lee emerged from cover, her own sidearm trained steadily on the alien commander. "Order your troops to stand down, Commander. Let's not make this any worse than it already is." The Kirathi guards looked at their fallen commander, then at their useless shields, and finally at the human security team's unwavering weapons. One by one, they powered down their energy rifles. Jai-Ho kept his M1911 trained on Ral, the weapon's worn grip still warm in his hand. The simple mechanics of the century-old pistol had just changed the course of interstellar diplomacy. "How?" Ral demanded, pressing a hand against his wound. "Our shields are perfect. They stop everything." "Not everything," Hannah replied, approaching with her weapon ready. "You forgot the basics. Energy shields stop energy. But a bullet? That's just mass times velocity." The human medical team rushed forward to treat the wounded, both human and Kirathi. Jai-Ho watched as the alien commander was tended to, his expression still locked in disbelief as the medics examined his injury. Captain Lee stepped forward, her voice carrying authority despite the chaos around them. "Perhaps now we can return to real diplomatic discussions, Commander. As equals this time." The chamber, scared by energy burns and bullet holes, had become the stage for a crucial lesson in humility. The Kirathi's technological superiority had been undone by the simple physics of a weapon they had dismissed as primitive. Jai-Ho holstered his M1911, feeling the weight of history in a new way. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. "Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones." The galaxy had just learned that lesson the hard way. The diplomatic chamber, which had witnessed the near breakdown of interstellar relations, now stood as a testament to human ingenuity and the danger of underestimating primitive technology. As medical teams worked and security forces secured the area, both species knew that their relationship would never be the same. The echo of that first gunshot would resonate through the galaxy, reminding advanced civilizations that progress doesn't always mean abandoning the past. News traveled through the galaxy's quantum communication networks at impossible speeds. Within hours, every major species had heard how humanity's primitive weapons had defeated the legendary Kirathi shields. The story spread from space station to colony world, growing with each retelling. Commander Du Yun Kang stood on the bridge of the HDS Vigilant, watching as his ship approached stellar station. The massive structure gleamed against the backdrop of stars, now surrounded by vessels from dozens of species. Every spacefaring civilization wanted to witness the aftermath of humanity's unexpected triumph. "Another request for gun specifications, Commander," his communications officer reported, this time from the Nexus Confederation. Do Yun smiled slightly. "Send them the same response as the others. All technology sharing will be discussed during official diplomatic channels." The Vigilant docked smoothly with Stellar Station. Through the viewing ports, Du Yun could see Kirathi ships keeping their distance from human vessels. Their usual aggressive positioning had been replaced by careful, almost nervous spacing. The station's diplomatic chamber had been repaired, though energy weapon burns and bullet holes still marked some walls. These scars had been deliberately left as a reminder. The chamber was packed with representatives from 24 spacefaring species, all eager to witness the first formal meeting since the incident. Du Yun entered to find the Kirathi delegation already seated, their scales shifting in nervous patterns. Commander Raul was absent, replaced by a younger admiral whose name translated as Swiftwind. The other alien species filled the observer sections, their various sensing organs all focused intently on the proceedings. "Welcome, Commander Kang," Swiftwind's translator conveyed. "We are prepared to discuss new terms for our relationship with humanity." Do Yun took his seat, noting how the Kirathi guards now carried both energy rifles and newly acquired projectile weapons. Perhaps he addressed the gathered council. It's time to discuss terms as equals. The chamber hummed with translated whispers as various species commented among themselves. Many were reviewing their own defensive technologies, realizing they shared the same vulnerability as the Kirathi shields. Our scientists have analyzed the incident. Swiftwind continued. We acknowledge our oversight regarding kinetic weapons. The Kirathi Empire would be interested in a technology exchange. A representative from the Centauri Collective raised an appendage. The collective would also express interest in human military technology. Our own shields suffer similar limitations. Du Yun watched as more species joined the discussion. The very weapons they had mocked as primitive were now the most sought-after technology in known space. Lieutenant Jeho Park's century-old pistol had triggered a fundamental shift in galactic military doctrine. Humanity is willing to share our knowledge. Du Yun replied carefully. But first, we need to address the underlying issue. Technology isn't about abandoning the old for the new. It's about building upon what works. The Chamber's translation systems worked overtime as species debated this concept. Some, like the crystalline Vex, immediately understood. Others, particularly the more technologically advanced empires, struggled with the idea that ancient principles could still hold value. Your projectile weapons, a Vex crystal chimed, they follow universal physics. Energy shields are complex, but mass and velocity remain constant. We should have seen this. Du Yun nodded. The simplest solutions are often the most reliable. Humanity hasn't survived this long by discarding what works. The meeting continued for hours as species after species requested information about human weapons technology. But more than that, they wanted to understand humanity's approach to technological development. The philosophy that had led them to maintain and improve upon older technologies rather than completely replacing them. We propose, Swiftwind finally announced, a joint military research initiative. Kirathi energy weapons combined with human ballistic principles. Together, we could develop defenses that truly are impenetrable. The chamber erupted in a cascade of translated agreements. Other species quickly added their own proposals for joint research projects. The galaxy's military balance had shifted dramatically, all because of a single pistol shot. As the meeting drew to a close, Du Yun received a message from Earth. The images showed Kirathi scientists examining ancient human weapons with newfound respect, while human engineers studied energy weapon schematics. The cooperation that had seemed impossible weeks ago was now reality. Commander, Swiftwind approached as the chamber emptied. I must ask, did your species maintain projectile weapons knowing about this vulnerability? Du Yun smiled. We maintained them because they worked. The vulnerability was just a bonus. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about the danger of technological arrogance. Humanity's primitive solutions had exposed a critical flaw in advanced alien technology. But more importantly, they had shown that progress didn't mean forgetting the past. As Du Yun left the chamber, he couldn't help but think about Lieutenant Jeho Park's old M1911. That simple machine, born from Earth's violent past, had become a symbol of humanity's unique approach to technology. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways. The research facility on Stellar Station buzzed with activity as alien scientists crowded around a simple firing range. Jeho Park stood at the center, his grandfather's M1911 drawing more attention than any energy weapon ever had. The Kirathi weapons expert, whose name translated roughly to Bright Mind, leaned forward with all four eyes fixed on the pistol. The mechanism is so elegant, Bright Mind's translator conveyed his fascination. Simple chemical reaction, controlled explosion, projectile guidance through rifling. No quantum calculations, no energy matrices, just pure physics. Jeho nodded, carefully disassembling the pistol. Each piece told its own story. The barrel worn smooth by thousands of rounds, the grip polished by generations of hands. The alien scientists recorded every detail, marveling at the mechanical precision of a design more than a century old. In the adjacent laboratory, human engineers worked alongside Kirethi technicians, combining principles from both worlds. Energy weapons were being modified to include physical projectile options, while traditional firearms were enhanced with alien power systems. The recoil is unexpected, a Kirethi guard admitted, trying to adjust to the unfamiliar kick of a standard-issue human rifle. Hannah Kim stood beside him, correcting his stance with patient instruction. "Work with the recoil, don't fight it," she explained. "It's part of the weapon's character. Each gun has its own personality, its own rhythm." The concept of weapons having personality sparked intense debate among the alien scientists. They had always viewed weapons as pure tools, mathematical equations made real. The human perspective of forming a relationship with their weapons fascinated them. In another section of the facility, Commander Du Yun watched as the first prototype hybrid weapons underwent testing. A modified rifle fired projectiles surrounded by energy fields, combining kinetic impact with plasma burns. The results were impressive, but more importantly, they represented a true merger of technologies. "We were wrong," Swift-Wind admitted, standing beside Du Yun. "We thought progress meant abandoning the past. Your species showed us there's another way." The training grounds became a meeting point for different species, each bringing their own military traditions and technologies. The Vex demonstrated crystalline weapons that fired shards at near-light speeds. The Centauri shared their gravitational manipulation devices. Humans showed them all how to integrate these advanced systems with tried-and-true mechanical principles. Jaiho found himself becoming something of a celebrity among the alien weapons researchers. His grandfather's M1911, the gun that had changed galactic military doctrine, was studied, scanned, and analyzed countless times. But what really impressed them was the story behind it, the history of modification and improvement across generations. "Your weapons evolve," Brightmind observed during one session. "They adapt and grow, keeping their core principles while incorporating new ideas. We just replaced everything with each new discovery." The cultural exchange went beyond weapons. Alien scientists began studying human history, particularly how Earth's civilizations had built upon past achievements rather than completely replacing them. Humans, in turn, learned to appreciate the elegant efficiency of alien energy weapons. In the station's fabrication centers, new designs emerged daily. Pistols with energy shield penetrators, rifles that could switch between kinetic and plasma rounds, personal shield generators that could stop both energy beams and physical projectiles. Hannah spent hours in the testing ranges, helping perfect these hybrid weapons. The key, she explained to a group of alien observers, is understanding that no single approach is perfect. You need options, flexibility, the ability to adapt. The cooperation led to unexpected breakthroughs. A Kirethi scientist, inspired by the simple mechanics of human firearms, developed a new type of energy modulation system. A human engineer, studying alien shield technology, created an improved body armor that could resist both kinetic and energy attacks. Even Commander Rel, still recovering from his wound, visited the facility. His encounter with Jaiho's bullet had changed him. "Your primitive weapon taught us humility," he admitted. "Perhaps that was a lesson we needed to learn." As weeks passed, the research facility's success led to similar programs across human and alien space. The galaxy was changing, moving away from the blind pursuit of advanced technology and toward a more balanced approach that valued both innovation and tradition. Jaiho often found himself standing at the firing range late at night, his grandfather's M1911 in hand. The old weapon had done more than expose a weakness in alien shields. It had sparked a revolutionary change in how different species approached technology and tradition. "Your grandfather would be proud," Hannah told him one evening. "His weapon didn't just protect humanity. It helped create understanding between species. The simple sound of gunfire, once mocked as primitive, now echoed through testing ranges across the galaxy. It served as a reminder that progress wasn't about discarding the past, but building upon it. The future would be forged not by any single species or technology, but by combining the best of all worlds. The Intergalactic Museum of Military History gleamed under the light of three suns. Jeho Park stood before a familiar display case, watching as museum workers carefully positioned his grandfather's M1911 on a cushion of soft light. The pistol's worn surface told its story even without the holographic information displays surrounding it. The weapon that changed galactic warfare read the plaque beneath it. Visitors from a dozen species gathered around, their various translation devices murmuring as they absorbed the significance of this simple machine. Hannah Kim joined him at the display, now wearing the insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Hard to believe it's been 6 months since that day in the chamber," she said, watching alien children press their faces against the security field to get a closer look at the famous weapon. A group of Kirathi students moved past, their scales shifting in respectful patterns as they recognized Jeho. Their teacher explained how this single human weapon had revolutionized shield technology across known space. Now, every major species incorporated both energy and kinetic protection into their defensive systems. In the museum's technology wing, a massive display showed the evolution of combat systems since the incident. New hybrid weapons lined the walls, elegant combinations of human mechanical engineering and alien energy systems. Each bore the mark of both species' influence, a testament to cooperation rather than competition. "Lieutenant Park," the voice called. Jeho turned to find Commander Brightmind approaching with a group of alien diplomats. "Would you honor us with another lesson about human military history?" Jeho nodded, leading the group to the museum's lecture hall. The aliens took their places, recording devices ready. Humanity's approach to warfare and technology had become a subject of intense study throughout the galaxy. "The key to understanding human military development," Jeho began, "is realizing that we never completely abandoned what worked. We improved, adapted, but kept the core principles that proved effective." The diplomats listened intently as he explained how Earth's various cultures had built upon each other's military innovations. He showed them ancient sword designs that influenced modern combat knives, old fortress layouts that inspired planetary defense systems. In orbit above them, the new Earth Defense Fleet demonstrated this philosophy in action. Ships now carried both energy weapons and traditional projectile systems. Their hulls incorporated layers of both physical armor and energy shielding. The fleet had become a symbol of the new approach to military technology spreading across the galaxy. "Your species," one of the alien diplomats observed, "sees possibilities where others see only obsolescence. This is why you survived first contact with more advanced civilizations." Hannah stepped forward to share her perspective. "We learned early in our history that newer doesn't always mean better. Sometimes the old solutions are the best solutions. They just need refinement." The lecture hall's displays showed footage from that fateful day in the diplomatic chamber. The moment when Jeho's bullet proved that simple physics could overcome advanced technology had been watched billions of times across known space. "Humans have gained a reputation," Brightmind's translator conveyed. "Problem solvers, bridge builders between old and new. Many species now seek Earth's counsel before developing new technologies." After the lecture, Jeho returned to the M1911 display. A small hologram showed the weapon in action that day, the simple bullet passing through the supposedly impenetrable Kirathi shield. But more importantly, it showed what happened after: humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, building something new from the best of both worlds. "Your grandfather's weapon," Hannah said softly, "it did more than just save us that day. It changed how the galaxy thinks about progress." The museum had become a symbol of this new understanding. Its halls were filled with examples of how different species had learned to combine their technologies, creating defensive systems and weapons that were truly universal in their effectiveness. As evening approached, Jaiho watched new visitors enter the museum. They came from worlds across the galaxy, each bringing their own perspective on the legacy of that historic day. The simple M1911 had become more than a weapon. It was a reminder that wisdom could come from unexpected sources. "We're learning from each other now," Brightmind observed, his scales showing patterns of contentment. No more mockery of primitive technology. No more blind worship of the new. Balance in all things. The museum lights dimmed, leaving the M1911 illuminated in its display case. The old weapon had served its final mission, not defending humanity through force, but by teaching the galaxy a lesson about humility, wisdom, and the true nature of progress. Jaiho placed his hand on the display case one last time. "Thank you, grandfather," he whispered. "Your legacy lives on among the stars." As visitors filed out of the museum, the M1911 remained on display, a testament to the day when humanity's past had helped secure its future. The galaxy had learned that true advancement came not from discarding history, but from building upon it, one lesson at a time.